for more on Premier Lee's visit to New Zealand. And joining me is Chen Mingming, China's former ambassador to New Zealand. Welcome to the broadcast.
Good morning.
We just heard them talking about what a friendly relationship that they enjoy and how New Zealand is going to work even harder to welcome more Chinese tourists. So let's talk about the cultural as well as the economic benefit between these two countries.
There are quite strong cultural ties between China and New Zealand, particularly in the field of tourism. To Chinese tourists, New Zealand is the ideal destination for leisure making. And also, there are also strong ties between the two countries in filmmaking. I think a couple of months ago, a great Chinese movie, The Great Wall, was shown in America. Actually, the post-production was completed by Veta Studio, a small but world-renowned New Zealand film company. So the prospects for cultural ties are very good.
Tell us a little bit more about the pushback against globalization and free trade and what kind of impact the relationship between these two leaders will have on that.
Well, both China and New Zealand are firmly against the attempt to reverse the course of globalization. You may notice that New Zealand was one of the 5 countries to initiate talks on TPP. And New Zealand is very much committed to free trade, and this is the position of China also. An important development regarding this visit by the Chinese premier is that both China and New Zealand agree to upgrade their free trade agreement. And this will send a very strong signal to the world that both two countries, which are important trading nations, will work hard to uphold globalization, to promote global free trade. And that is a very positive signal, and I hope that it will be heard elsewhere.
Chen Mingming, this is Owen Fairclough in the studio with Susan. We heard some of the New Zealand officials before this visit saying they won't take sides in any kind of globalization or protectionist debate that concerns the US and China. Do you believe that? It would seem that New Zealand very much wants free trade and therefore is kind of picking a side.
I can understand the statement made by the New Zealand trade official because New Zealand also maintains strong trade ties with the US. So in that sense, New Zealand doesn't really want to take sides. But on this fundamental issue of free trade, which is vital for New Zealand's development, I would have to say it has to make its position clear that it is for free trade, and that is a very unmistakable signal. And that's important.
Let's talk about the Asia-Pacific region specifically. How will they work together to stabilize this area against the backlash of globalization and free trade?
Currently, both China and New Zealand are negotiating the upgrading of their free trade agreement, and that is very important. The next step is for both China and New Zealand to speed up their negotiation on a region-wise economic comprehensive partnership, another general framework for free trade in Asia-Pacific, which was launched by the ASEAN countries. The ASEAN countries, China, New Zealand, Australia, are all involved in this negotiation. And the goal set is for the 10 countries involved to complete this region-wise free trade agreement by the end of this year. I think the Premier's visit will add momentum to this ongoing negotiation, and that would also beat back the attempt to reverse the course of free trade and globalization.
Chen Mingming, we know that Donald Trump, the US president, has pulled out of the Trans-Pacific Trade Deal, TPP. How important do you think that would be if this trade deal were to collapse entirely between the other parties? How important would it be for Oceania and Asia and that part of the world?
I think that gives both Australia and New Zealand a sense of urgency to join other region-wise trade arrangements as well as strengthening the free trade arrangements they already have with other countries, particularly with China, which is the world's second largest economy and the largest export market in the Asia Pacific. So in the aftermath of Donald Trump's decision to scrap TTP, both countries, all countries, China, New Zealand, and Australia, will work harder. They will redouble their efforts to strengthen their bilateral and multilateral trade ties in the interests of their own countries.